Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals publish to grow their businesses, inform their consumers, and to leave a legacy. We're doing a series of spotlights on remarkable attorneys across the country, and specifically with focuses on elder law and estate planning. Joining me on this segment, based out of Southeast Massachusetts, is Melissa Victor. She's an attorney with a focus on elder law. Melissa, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
I know the topic of elder law is a broad topic, so kindly tell us your focus areas in that spectrum and the types of folks that you specialize in helping.
Sure. So my main focus for over 24 years now has been estate planning and then elder law. Estate planning, is basically anywhere from wills to different types of trusts, just people trying to protect their assets in the event that they should, pass away, to preserve assets from probate or from estate taxes. And in the elder law realm, more for people who are looking to protect their assets in the event they have to go into a nursing home, or for those who haven't protected their assets and are now doing emergency planning.
And it's been in the news a lot lately, and of course, and even a movie lately on Netflix, I understand. So I know the pandemic has really shined a spotlight on the lack of information or general knowledge about this topic. So what is so hot in the news today, and why has it been so underinformed?
Well, I think that a majority, it's funny, a lot of my clients I will get after somebody died unexpectedly. Maybe it's a loved one, brother or sister, people die at a young age and they see that this person hasn't planned. And now they're talking to the family who's going through stuff with somebody that hasn't planned. So I think, COVID obviously brought death, unfortunately, more to light in younger people, as well as older people. But, I've had a lot of clients recently who may have lost mom one week and then the next week lost dad right after with this COVID pandemic. So it's really just put, I think, death in the forefront and how quick things can happen, even to those, that are healthy. We say that COVID affected, most people that were elderly and had issues, but then there are those that did pass away and succumb to it who really, had no underlying issues. So, I think that that's what's brought it about for a lot of people and their lack of planning. Most people don't want to think about their death. And, you have some people that think that once they put a plan in place that, now they're going to pass away. So I think it's just brought out past procrastination for people and it's time to do something.
Yeah, to your point, aging is obviously a very sensitive subject for a lot of folks, so they probably want to put their head in the sand. What are some of the dangers that people face by not getting their ducks in a row and not being properly planned when they could have to avoid the problems? What kind of problems can they face?
So I think, depending on the age of the person, obviously, if you have young kids and you haven't done any planning, your untimely death could cause a huge problem in their being able to go to college or their spouse being taken care of. A lot of the generation like mine at my age fail to do any estate planning because we all think that we're invincible and, nothing's going to happen to us. So failing in my generation is really most effectively hurting children and the spouses. And then if you get to a little bit of an older generation, 60s and 70s, failing to plan can cost their family, thousands of dollars, whether it be that they end up in a nursing home and haven't planned, or it goes through probate and the attorneys get the fees. The biggest way that people can plan for their family is something called a power of attorney. And it's a document that says if you're unable to handle your finances, that you name somebody to do that for you. And to me, that's the most important estate planning document you can have, because without it, your family can be forced to go into the probate court in whatever state you live in to become your guardian or conservator and to be able to handle these assets. A lot of times when we're dealing with clients, we need to act immediately, and we don't really have time for months in the probate court for somebody to be appointed for the family to argue. So a lot of these things really just cause the family more heartache when they're already going through a tough time, whether it's the death of somebody or having to place them in a nursing home. It's already hard enough emotionally, let alone if they're, parents or loved ones having plans.
To your point, I think I have an idea. What if we made it be a trend now to get the estate plan and this planning in place when you're ridiculously young, to where the conversation of, oh, I'm going to die tomorrow may not even occur?
Right.
Is that reasonable?
Right. Yeah, and out of my clientele, I would say maybe 1% are people my age, in their 40s and younger. It's very rare that the younger generation wants to put money aside to plan for their death. I mean, at the very least, you at least need to have a will and life insurance and things in place, but people don't necessarily want to spend the extra money to do that, especially now with people who are out of work and, not have enough money. When you tell them, it's a couple $100 or a couple $1,000, it's really the last thing they want to spend money on.
You brought up a point with the will.
Yes.
A lot of folks, I think it's kind of old school thinking, even like, oh, I have a will, that's enough. Is a will really enough? And is that what people are thinking? Is that a misconception?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I always get the call from people, we see this in the movies, the will reading. When are we all going to get together to read the will? That just happens in the movies. I really have never gotten a family together to actually read the will. Listen, I kind of call it's a basic estate plan for people. It's important to have, at least it's better than nothing. But on the rung of estate planning, on a ladder, it's really the first step. Most people that have a house really should have some type of trust. And if you have younger kids, you probably want to have a trust, because you don't want them to get the asset when they're 18, or, you want to specify a specific age. And even if you do that in a will, now you've brought the probate court into it. So anytime we can not have the courts involved, it's going to be more beneficial for the family.
Melissa, what inspired you to focus on elder law and estate planning? How did you get started?
So when I was in law school, I remember that we had to take this class called Wills, Estates, and Trust. It was core requirement for the bar. And I remember telling my dad that summer, oh, they're making me take this class called Wills, Estates, and Trust. It seems so boring. I never took it, but it sounded boring. And then I took it and I loved it. And I excelled in it in law school. All of the extra classes you could take, estate planning, it was all the classes I did really well in. And I taught at New England Law in Boston as an adjunct professor for a number of years when my kids were younger. And so I just really enjoyed it. And, helping people was a great, aspect to it. But also, honestly, it was a great area of the law to have a family with, because I could have kids and I didn't need to be in court doing criminal trials, and I can make my own hours, whether it was day or night. And let's face it, everybody loves kids. So if I said my child was sick, nobody got angry, that I was missing a court date. So it was a really good field to be in. Still is.
Before I ask you my last question, for somebody that really is now aware that they need to get this stuff in place, what are the steps? Like, where should they start if they don't even know where to start? What's the basics of what they should consider when getting together, and who should they speak with?
Great question. So I think that when you're doing estate planning, just like with everything else, you should have somebody that specializes in that area. I mean, let's face it, we wouldn't go to a knee doctor to have somebody look at our eyes. And it's really the same thing with estate planning. You want to get somebody who definitely specializes in that area, so that they know the different laws regarding probate, estate taxes in that state. So, obviously the internet's a good way to Google estate planning attorneys in your area. There are different membership associations that you can go to the different websites. There's the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, that if people are joined as an attorney, so they can certainly do a lot of research, but I definitely would suggest somebody who strictly specializes in that area.
Melissa, for folks listening who are in Southeast Massachusetts or in the areas that you serve, if they want to connect with you and learn more, where should they go?
So they can certainly call my office, and the number is 508-230-5777, or I can give my website, which is www.attorneyforelders.com. So that's attorney spelled out, the word for, F-O-R, elders, plural with an S.com. And they can find some great information there. I do offer a free information session. I do not charge for the sit down to get an understanding of their plan and give them recommendations. And then I just leave it in their hands after I give different recommendations as to, what they feel comfortable doing.
Melissa, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing these great insights with my audience today. And I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate you having me.
Melissa Victor, she's the founder and attorney at Victor and Associates with a focus on elder law and estate planning. This segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals and business owners publish to inform their consumers, grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.